Hello, bookworms. Welcome back to the Bonified Bookworm. I'm your host, Rachel, and if you're here to read along with me and improve your English. So, a few things. One, I made the mistake of going outside today. Like, my hair actually looked kind of good, and then I went outside and I just sweat a whole bunch, so now I ended up with this slicked back do. And it cracks me up because I feel like there's this, I think it was like late 80s, early 90s video. I want to say Huey Lewis. I don't know if that's right. But anyway, Shania Twain did a video similar to his, but his video was like women with like their hair slicked back. They had on this red lipstick. And I think they had guitars and they just stood behind him and he was like doing like that. And then Shania Twain did like kind of a take on that later. Anyway, I will find it and I will pop a picture up here because I'm getting good at that, by God. So, other thing I wanted to share, there are now 15 of us subscribed. I count myself because I do. So that's exciting. 15 bookworms. So yay. Hi, welcome, new bookworms. I'm glad that you're joining us, and I'm sorry that you've had to watch the evolution of the videos, but they're getting better, I think. We'll see. So I finished Verity by Colleen Hoover, like super fast. I couldn't put it down. A few things about it. One, very 50 Shades of Grey. I was like, oh, okay. Like, it just all of a sudden went that direction. Makes sense though, as you read along. You kind of understand the point of it, but not really. I don't know. I'm funny about that. Like, I feel like if it should be, if it should happen because of the characters, that's one thing. If it's in there just to be in there, then it's just smut, porn, whatever, you know, which is fine and dandy, if that's what you like to read. This book, though, was good. Couldn't put it down. It reminded me of Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre because there's just mysterious stuff happening in this house, and you're like, is she crazy? Or is this dude crazy? Or is she like having a dream? Like, it was really good, and I really wish that this was a movie already because it would be a really good thriller, I think. Like, I'm sitting here going, why is this not a movie yet? But anyway, good book, highly recommend. Go read it. I think you'll enjoy it. Maybe not, I don't know, let me know. Now, we are reading Untamed by Deborah Kiley and Meg Noonan. And one thing I was curious about, you can drop it in the comments if you'd like, but when I read this book at first, I thought that I was reading from a man's perspective. I thought the main character was a man. Let's see, my dad also read this book and he thought that the main character was a man. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and I'm just curious, like, what you all think. Like, did you pick up on that it was a woman right away, or when she finally said her name, that's when you're like, oh, this is a woman, you know? I don't know, I just enjoyed that. I thought it was different. So we are going to start again. Page 17. They have just gone to get something to eat. Her and the ship's captain, John, and they're going to talk about her contract, where she's worked at before, like, you know, her credentials, which is really interesting too. Like, if you are younger and you're not used to this, like back in the day, you know, people got jobs by word of mouth, by trusting the other person was telling you the truth. Like, there wasn't this, oh, submit a resume and it just goes off into space. I mean, you actually dealt with people. So that was neat. And you get known by your reputation in certain circles. So there's that piece of it too, because I don't want to spoil anything, but you'll find out that her career, her industry is one of those industries where it's like, if you make it up top, people know who you are. And since she did that race on that French boat, French ship, yacht. I don't know what you call boats. People get very touchy about that. I don't know the lingo, so I'm sorry. But she was on that boat as like one of the first women, and that was like a big to-do. So her name is kind of out there, you know, which I thought was pretty cool. So anyway, page 17, they just went to get something to eat, and like I said, they're just going to look at her credentials and just have a little conversation. Okay. Okay. We took the Zodiac back to the dock, then walked up to the moorings, a seafood and chowder place with big windows overlooking the harbor. I would have liked to sit at a table that looked out on the water, but John went straight for the bar. The bartender immediately flipped the top off a Heineken and put it on a round cardboard coaster in front of John. "Gee, come here often?" I said. He ordered a hamburger, and when I said I'd just have a small salad, dressing on the side, he groaned. "No wonder you're so skinny," he said. "Oh yeah, real skinny," I said. "You're a twig. Come on, have a burger or something. I'm buying." Food had been a problem with me for years. I've been fighting bulimia ever since I was shipped off to boarding school as a gawky teenager. This summer, I have been struggling, not very successfully, to get it under control. I told the waiter the salad would be plenty. While we ate, we talked about sailing and mined each other's past for mutual acquaintances. There weren't many. I had sailed mostly offshore or from Europe. John said he had grown up in Maine and had taught sailing in summer. He told me about some of the boats he worked on. I figured he had to be good to have landed a position as captain of Trashman. When we finished lunch, John said he would call Newberger that afternoon. That afternoon. And he reminded me to mail my resume. Yeah, no email. Newberger lived in Dallas. I was born on a ranch in Throckmorton, Texas, and I figured that once he saw where I was from, I'd be a shoo-in. A week later, I found John sitting at the moorings bar, tapping a box of cigarettes on the heel of his left hand. "Hey," I said. John looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. "No word yet from Newberger," he said. "But you'll get it, I'm pretty sure." Great, I really want to do it. I'm always dropping words, sorry. "Tell you what," he said, pulling a cigarette out of the box. "Think you could still work nights at Bubba's and help me to get the boat ready during the day?" "I could probably work it out. There's a bunch of things I haven't gotten around to." I thanked John and returned to leave. "Hey, where are you going?" he said. "Stick around, have a beer with me. We should celebrate." John waved his hand at the bartender. "Couple of more greenies?" Excuse me. I sat back down. What the hell, I thought. I didn't have to be at work until 4:30. I spent the next 3 weeks working on Trashman by day and at Bubba's by night. It felt good to be doing the physical work of prepping a boat for sea, and Trashman responded well to my efforts. John had assigned me all the domestic chores, cleaning out the lockers, restocking the galley, getting gear organized, as well as some of the cosmetic deck work. He was handling everything else. I found out right away that John was not the hardest worker in the world, nor was he the most reliable. On my first morning of work, he was a no-show at the dock, and I had to bum a ride out to Trashman. When I got on board, I found him passed out in his bunk with all his clothes on, mouth open and snoring. When he finally woke up, he spent the next hour groaning and staring into his coffee cup. More than anything else, John liked his little celebrations. We celebrated my first day of work by going ashore for a 3-hour lunch. And to celebrate the day Newberger officially approved of hiring me, we headed into Bar Harbor and drank our way from one end of town to the other. The last boats I've been on have been temperamental, high-maintenance racing machines. Nobody screwed around, at least not until the race was over. There was always a deadline or a start to get to or the next leg of the race to prepare for. I was used to busting ass to get everything bought, made, or repaired. And I was used to working for skippers who were perfectionists. But with Trashman, there was no urgency, no sense of needing to be prepared. We'd be at sea for only a couple of days at a time at most. John said we would pick up what we needed when we needed it. It didn't matter to me if he wanted to piss away the days. I assumed that when we finally went to sea, he would get serious. One rainy afternoon at the moorings, John pulled his neatly typed resume out of his canvas briefcase and handed it to me. I made some obligatory crew to captain remarks about how impressive it was. And it was true. There were some great boats on the list, but none of his jobs seemed to have lasted long. When I asked him about it, he told me that personality conflicts or scheduling glitches or sudden changes in plans had always cut short his employment. His last job had been on Black Knight, a black-hulled 88-foot powerboat that I had seen once in Newport. John said he had worked on that boat with his girlfriend, Meg Mooney. "Why isn't she on Trash Man?" I asked, knowing both that it was none of my business and that John had enough of a buzz going to tell me. "Newberger told me not to hire her." "Why'd he do that?" "We had some problems on Black Knight, a couple of fights, nothing big. A couple of bigwigs got ticked off. Newberger knew about it?" "He heard somewhere, said Meg couldn't go. Isn't that bullshit?" John asked as his elbows slipped off the edge of the bar. I'd seen plenty of shaky relationships explode in the close quarters of a boat, but I'd never heard of it getting so bad that the couple was blacklisted. I pressed John for more details, but he didn't seem to want to talk about Meg. Don't give a shit anyway," he mumbled, an unlit cigarette dangling from his mouth. He was fumbling with his lighter. I handed him some matches off the bar. "We broke up. That's it. She really was a bitch. Who needs that shit?" I had no intention of getting involved in John's love life. I stayed busy doing my projects on Trash Man and kept things light between us. When he wanted a drinking buddy, I was usually willing. When he wanted to be alone, I kept my distance. Things were going so well, I even managed to have a few decent telephone conversations with my mother. But when she said she was thinking of coming north to visit my half-brother Lee, a college student in Boston, and me in Bar Harbor, I panicked. My mother was not your usual sort of mother, if there is such a thing. Her life, and as a result of it, my life, had been one long, crazy soap opera. The daughter of a wealthy Texas rancher, she married a local cowboy at 17, then gave birth to me and divorced my father before she was 20 years old. Now a recovering alcoholic, my mother was a great beauty who believed in the importance of appearances. She hated the idea that her only daughter was knocking around in boats. I had never been able to please her, not as a small child, not as a smart-mouthed teenager, and certainly not now. I'd always felt she blamed me for every rotten thing that had happened to her. And I knew we would resume the same old battles when I saw her again. She arrived on a sunny, cool morning, and all went well for the first few hours. John and I took her out in the Zodiac and circled Trash Man so she could get a look at it. Afterward, we all had lunch at the moorings. My mother was in rare form, and John seemed captivated by her. I knew it was easy to be dazzled by this charming, perfectly coiffed woman if she didn't happen to be your mother. But I was a wreck. I found myself shoveling a cheeseburger into my mouth as fast as I could and ordering apple pie with vanilla ice cream and waiting for the right moment to bolt for the ladies' room and purge myself of it all. "Why are you wasting your life this way?" my mother asked me later, after we had driven back to her fancy inn in Northeast Harbor. "When are you going to settle down?" "Don't start, Mother." "I don't care at all for that John fellow. There's something strange about him. I don't think I approve of you just going off with him. You're such a good judge of character." "Pardon me? What did you say?" "He's all right. You don't even know him." "Are you doing something different with your hair?" she said, reaching to brush my bangs to one side before I could duck. By the time Mother left after 3 days, I had thrown up half a dozen times. A week or so later, John came into Bubba's and stood by the waitress station looking impatient. When I was finally free to talk, he said, "Newberger called. He wants us to get going." "What's the hurry?" I asked, hoisting a tray full of sandwiches onto my shoulder. "I don't know. He says get going. We gotta go." "I told my boss I was here for another couple of weeks." Tell him there's been a change of plans. I'll ask. We have to make a stop in Portland to get some documentation papers for the Coast Guard. Then we'll head for Newport, and we'll probably hit Annapolis in time to catch the boat show. That's always a good time. I'll ask. My boss agreed to let me go if I would work one last weekend. John and I made plans to have our last dinner ashore, another celebration. We would take off on Tuesday. John said we'd overnight in Camden, where he hoped we'd be able to pick up some more crew. He hadn't been able to find anyone but me in Bar Harbor. I packed my few belongings into a duffel and spent the night before we left in the crew quarters. I was so excited I couldn't sleep. As I lay in the narrow bunk and felt Trash Man bouncing a little in the light chop, I heard the cries of geese passing over. They were heading south, to hot sun and turquoise water. I'm right behind you guys, I thought, and closed my eyes. Okay, that is the end of chapter 1, so we'll stop there and pick up again at chapter 2. Let me know if y'all are enjoying the shorter episodes or if you prefer the long episodes. I do enjoy the long episodes because I feel like we get through the book faster and you get to read more. And also, like, when I'm looking at podcasts, I'm usually looking for podcasts that are longer because I'm driving or gonna go to sleep and I kind of like listen to it as it doze off. So let me know if you like longer episodes, shorter episodes, or if you just don't care. And I hope y'all have a great day, week, month, or wherever you are. And I'll see you back here next time. Bye.